I'm going to go ahead and start the stream now. And we are live. We probably were live already, but you just don't know with fucking YouTube. You just don't know. All right, so we are here. Welcome everyone to the after show. So far, I just have a message from Ginger Socrates. Yo. So hopefully more people will show up. We are looking at. We were talking about mushrooms, but we're also looking at an article, which may make you want to start mushrooms. I don't know. Well, this is written by John Davis on Medium.com. It could be interesting. He is a retired public official and international lawyer, and he often writes on current gender issues. This is entitled Gender Bullying and Shooters. So, Emma Gonzalez. Emma Gonzalez, by the way, is the, she is basically the anti-gun activist turned... She was a high school student or middle school student turned activist, basically.
High school.
Yeah, high school student. And she's been, asking for reasonable gun reform and has been making a lot of emotional appeals from the media and has been essentially become a star overnight. So Emma Gonzalez, this is a quote by her. We did a story on this last week where we speculated about the prospect of her being one of the bullies of the shooter, Cruz. She's quoted as saying, "Those talking about how we should have not ostracized him, you didn't know this kid, okay? We did." Marolo Alvarez remembers students taunting Nicholas Cruz. Alvarez said he wishes he had said something earlier. Quote, "I could have said something to administrators that, hey, this kid gets bullied a lot. Please help him. Please reach out to him. I kind of regret not doing that," Alvarez said. Feminists are keen to point out that most school shooters are young white males. Not today, anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, it wasn't a school. But
combo breaker! Sorry.
Oh, God.
Yes, it wasn't a school, but still.
It was a mass shooting, potentially.
It was almost a mass. It's just that, it's just that women are just not good at it.
You need to work on your grouping.
All right, feminists are not so keen on accepting responsibility for turning vulnerable young men into shooters and suicide victims. Since he was in middle school, it was no surprise to anyone who knew him that he was the shooter. Those talking about how we should have not ostracized him, you didn't know this kid, okay, we did. That's a quote by Emma Gonzalez. Again, step 4 in stopping school shootings. Stop shaming men and boys. The rate of high school boys committing suicide is now 6 times higher than it is for girls in the same category. Bullies like Emma Gonzalez and those supporting institutionalized hatred of men, feminism in quotes, or I'm sorry, in parentheses, have relentlessly bullied boys for the past 50 years. Below is a graph of the age groups and the gender suicide gap. What the graph shows is that the gender gap in suicides is widest when young boys are subjected to feminized institutions which are saturated with a hatred of men and masculinity. And here is the graph. Now, of course, I don't know where this guy's politics are or where he's coming from. And while what he's saying, it sounds appealing. If he says something that is wrong, I think that it's important that if you guys know that it's wrong to point it out, because I'd rather have the truth than something that I'd like to hear. Okay, but not right now. Is that your plate?
Yeah.
Damn, that looks good. I'll get some. I'll get some later. All right. So he has this chart here: suicides by gender. The male one is males are better at everything, including killing themselves, guys. So I kid, but definitely they excel. Although there's a bit of a spike there between the ages of 35 and 44. It seems to be higher. That's the highest point for women, but it's also the highest point for men, and significantly higher than it is for women. So we're talking about the numbers, but yeah, I mean,
A funny thing about this graph is that towards 85 plus, women become more of a shooters. I can imagine some grandmas with the shotguns.
Well, you know, the reason that gap narrows and you start seeing so much more female suicide in comparison to male suicide in those age groups is because by that time, a lot more men are already dead. That's beyond, like, if the average lifespan in the United States is 80 years old, that's 75 for men and like 82 or 83 for women.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, more women are going to commit suicide because more women haven't already died.
Yeah, by natural causes or whatever.
Right.
All right. This is the CDC data on the suicide gap, by the way. Boys are very vulnerable when they are in their teens. They are struggling to learn to manage fierce hormonal influences. They are also struggling against an army of feminist influences that are trying to convince them that they are worthless because of their sexual feelings and that they are worthless simply because they are men and not women. Stop shaming men and boys. Stop torturing men and boys for their nature and birthrights as men. Stop the persecution of boys in high schools by gender fanatics like Gonzalez. That is the only sensible way we can put a stop to boys committing suicides and school shootings. I don't know that's the only way, though. Now, he does say this is step 4, so he's clearly done blogs before this one, I suppose. But I think that the bullying thing is kind of like everyone's going to experience bullying in their lifetime, right? I mean, that's common. That's sort of like it's just one of our human experience, part of the human experience. But I think that in this gentleman's case, this guy, he had it bad from the beginning. You know, his parents died like before he was born or something, or shortly. Well, he was very young, and then he was adopted, and then like after that, like his adopted father died, or his adopted father died before it. What was it?
No, he was adopted from being a baby. Like
yeah.
Yeah. His father died when he was 5, I think.
Yeah, his father, his adopted.
His mom died very recently.
Yeah.
Last year or something.
So I mean, like he just didn't have parents. I'm not saying he deserves the bullying. I don't think so, but I think that to say that that's the main issue, or that's the only issue, I think personally, starting the story in the middle, it's not quite right. This is the only sensible way we can put a stop to boys committing suicides and school shootings. 7 steps to stop school shootings. Stop drugging our boys. Stop punishing boys for being boys. Stop women from raping boys. This must be his list. Stop women from raping boys. Wow. He acknowledges that. That's great. Stop shaming boys. Stop hating men and boys. Stop alienating boys from their fathers. See, I would have put that one towards the top. And stop abusive single mother households. Yeah, that's his thing.
Is this guy? Go ahead, Hannah.
I was gonna say I would have put stop alienating boys from their fathers at the top as well, partly because having the father there in the child's life would make a big difference in all of those other areas.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously, stop alienating boys from their fathers would also stop abusive single mother households. Like those things would, coincide. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things that they found was that when you have cooperative parenting, when you have, even if they're not living in the same household, if the child regularly spends time with both parents, there's less likely to be abuse on either side. And it's probably partly because the parent knows that the other parent is going to document the abuse. So having both parents in a child's life is a protective measure.
Mm-hmm. That is the point. Gender studies for men. I'm going to look this guy up. He sounds kind of interesting. John has authorized the following books. How to Avoid False Accusations of Rape. So he is author. This is a book. The Self-Defense in the Feminist State. Female Sex Predators. Huh. And he's also got a book called Women Who Rape Men. Female Sex Predators. And He has a couple of them. False accusations of rape, lynching in the 21st century. And he has Women of the Klan, Foundations of Modern Feminism. Really? This one didn't get very good ratings. So the other books that he's recommended, they're like 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 4 stars. But the Klan book is 3 stars. I wonder what people's problem with it was.
Maybe
They didn't like
feminists found
admitting
it.
the fact that there was a feminist branch of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. This is not scholarship. This is manipulation of a few quotes to skew facts. What little references the author makes are poorly supported, and he has the gall to make statements about the percent of false rape accusations without offering any kind of evidential support. This is really an attack of progressional women. What the hell is progressional a word? Is that supposed to be progressive or professional? I'm not really sure. This is really an attack of progressional women and feminism. For all of his degrees, you would think he would write a better paper.
The progressive professional woman.
The progressive professional woman, yeah. Erica gives 1 star and writes, "Don't bother. I'm so embarrassed that I bothered to borrow this book from on my Kindle Unlimited. It is just trash. Don't even waste your time. The author could be disbarred for writing this garbage. The scary part is that he practices law. Good grief. I couldn't delete it from my app fast enough. Boy, bye." Well, thanks for that well-reasoned argument. I was wondering when you were going to say why it was bad. Edith Rieger says, "Poorly researched opinionated dogma. This book promised one thing and delivered another. Not a history of women in the KKK, but a thinly disguised attempt to equate feminism with the ideology of Klan women. A very strange concept." Is it, though? Is it? Is it, though? I mean, don't they have roots there? Aren't there feminist roots in the KKK or something?
Yes. Yes, there are. And there's actually, Crystal wrote about that. And she wrote an article that we published on the Honey Badger Brigade blog about the suffragettes and the fact that among the suffragettes were KKK members. So, I mean, the suffragette movement had its roots in the KKK.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They did. I knew that. I mean, it was pretty racist from the beginning, wasn't it? It was
It was
the suffragette period. So, yeah, so he seems pretty based.
Before they realized that the big money is in the sexism.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so he has like a couple of other blogs, ways to teach girls to respect boys and men. Let's see, lonely and isolated American men. Why are feminists so fragile? How can women rape men if they don't have a penis? Why do feminists feel so inferior to men? Michael, whoa.
Because they are.
I want to read this one. Why do feminists feel so inferior to men? Because that other one was shorter than I thought. So, Michael Kimmel.
It makes women feel inferior to men, and it makes men feel inferior to women. It's kind of a magic trick, isn't it? That should never have been done.
On the bottom of his book recommendations, there's a short biography for the guy, and he seems pretty legit.
Yeah, I peeped that. I think it's at the bottom of this right here, right? John Davis was born in Cleveland, Ohio, so he's born in Ohio. He was educated at Case Western Reserve University, one of the top 10 universities in the United States, Seattle University School of Law, and New York University School of Law, one of the top 10 law schools in the United States. John is fluent in 7 languages, including ancient Latin and Greek. He has traveled the world over many times and has represented clients in his 35-year career, such as the U.S. government and the Federation of Russia. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Recently?
It's that Russian influence again.
John Davis is a Russian bot, confirmed. He has been a prosecutor 3 times in his 35-year career. He has held positions such as Assistant Attorney General, United States Speaker, and Assistant District Attorney, Chief Wing JAG, U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, and Supreme... JAG, yeah, Chief Wing JAG. and Supreme Court law clerk. For most of his career in civil law, John was a successful international lawyer practicing in many nations around the world. I'm going to try and reach out to this guy, I think. I don't know how busy he is.
He has to be a good person to talk to if we get a chance.
Exactly. Let's see if he's on Twitter. I'm just going to look. Too bad John Davis is such a fucking common name.
Yeah.
I'll just search it real quick before I read this other article. I just got to find who he is. People...
Well, you could try like John Davis Jag or something.
All right.
Or John Davis and the title of one of his books.
That too.
That might find his social
on Twitter.
Media.
I searched in Twitter.
A lot of authors plug their material on Twitter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Q-Tip's real name must be John Davis because I searched John Davis on Twitter and Q-Tip came up. The more you know. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't confirm it.
It is, yeah, no. That's one of those little known facts. The guy from Korn and the guy from Tribe Called Quest have the same name.
Oh, the guy from Korn is also John Davis? Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Just ask all of them to come on the show. We'll just have a John Davis day.
Yeah, let's just bring them all on. They'll just, whatever. We'll just have a bunch of, it'll be a little bit of a complex stream because when I say, hey, John, can you answer this for me? I'll probably get multiple responses. But
well, Q-Tip wouldn't answer you. Q-Tip had the sense even before YouTube to give himself an alias. It's Jonathan Davis. It's kind of a boring name. So it's like, fuck it, I'm Q-Tip. I'm the happy rapper. Listen to me. Whereas Jonathan Davis of Korn just went, fuck this. I'm just Jonathan Davis. Fuck
There
you
we go.
people. I can't even be bothered. I can be bothered styling my hair for hours on end, but I can't be bothered changing my name because I'm real.
I'm doing a search.
They all have their merits. I enjoy a bit of Korn, and I very much enjoy a bit of Tribe Called Quest. They're all fab. They're both fabulous Jonathan Davises.
Oh, he's BAJDLLM, I guess. He has a bunch of. He's got a bunch of John W. Davis. No, that guy looks really old. John Davis BA. Yeah, that's him. He can be followed on Amazon. Well, I'll figure it out. He was born in 1953. He's still here. So I'll figure it out. But I'm going to try and reach out to this guy and see if I can get him on. I also got to try to reach out to Roaming Millennial because she recently did a video with Cassie J. And I know that Roaming Millennial is mostly just focused on like her conservative positions. But when she watched the Red Pill, I want to know like, you know, if she's taken an interest in the men's issues bit. Because I think that's more important than the other thing. But okay, so John Davis's other article I'll read through as well. He said it's entitled "Why Do Feminists Feel Inferior to Men?" Michael Kimmel is a gay male feminist who relentlessly attacks straight white men. Why does he feel so inferior? Michael Kimmel is a professor, in quotes, of sociology and the author of a misandrist, man-hating book entitled "Angry White Men: American Masculinity at the End of an Era." Let's take a look at that. Is that on Amazon? It is. How popular is this book? 3.5 stars. So not that popular. Angry White Men. Let's see what people are going to say about it. I am a doctoral student that values the psychology of masculinity, stereotypes, and gender roles. I found this to be an incredibly valuable book. The author is a great writer and presents the information very well. Excellent book. I actually read the book. I very much enjoyed the book. Thanks, Michael Kimmel. Fascinating but poorly written. Whoops. What are the negative reviews? I always like to read. Whenever I want to go see a movie, like I didn't go see Ready Player One yet, but I kind of wanted to. I usually look at the worst reviews to see like what my lowest possible opinion could be. Do you guys ever do that? Or do you just not care about reviews at all?
I don't even bother reading them.
Depends on what it's for.
Sometimes a negative review can tell you whether or not you want to see it based on what it is they don't like about it. So if they say, I don't like it because there's too many white men in it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go see it. Or I don't like it because it's too violent. Oh, well, I'm going to go see that. You know, like I know I want to see it now. Thanks. Thanks for helping me out.
Well, there is that.
I mean, that's actually what you can kind of count on reviewers for, is that if they don't like it, there's a good chance you'll like it. Because it tends to be the case, you know. A book born out of the author's personal bias. This book reads like the author began his research with a particular agenda and sought out the facts carefully to support said agenda. He appears to be so immersed in his already well-formed bubble as to whiteness and what it represents, and apparently how whites view their own lives and situations, he's missing the truth not only by a mile, but by many miles. In other words, he's getting at the truth in very small measures, and as such, his book is not all that different from other books from the leftist perspective. But those in that perspective bubble, if you will, believe their own press, which leads us to this. When seeking the truth, it's always best to be asking the right questions apart from one's own personal bias. And when you don't, well, you'll end up producing a book like this. All right, so back to the Medium art, the Medium post. Mr. Kimmel is often touted in the media as a, quote, leading expert on masculinity. He's also in charge of a program about masculinity at Stony Brook University Center for the Study of Men and Masculinities. That is like male studies in college might be worse than gender studies in college, like women's studies. Because when there are male studies, they are from the feminist perspective. And God, I mean, such a thing should
it's not very good.
No,
go in there to be demonized
should not exist. But on the plus side, hopefully they haven't made it a mandatory thing. So I'm guessing that most men wouldn't take that class because, you know, they got to get jobs when they get out of college.
It's probably full of feminist women.
Yeah, it's probably a bunch of women that are like, I want to understand men. Well, we could take this class. It's all about men and masculinity. And they take it as like, well, I'm a lesbian now, you know. So it's success, feminism. The fact is, Mr. Kimmel is not an expert at anything other than revisionist history and hatred of straight white men. And then he has a photo of a poster or it's like a poster on a pole that says, everything you see was built by men supporting their families. Hashtag men are awesome. Mr. Kimmel's thesis in all of his works is that men are defective women and that hegemonic heterosexual masculinity is the source of all evil in the world. Mr. Kimmel draws on nothing in supporting his thesis or his analysis, except the feminist narrative from the past 50 years and his deep motivation to cast aspirations on men who are masculine. Not aspirations, aspersions. I read that wrong. Deep aspersions on men who are masculine, which makes more sense. Mr. Kimmel is well supported in the academic community, in government, and in most of our institutions. Because Mr. Kimmel's hate propaganda is essential to the neo-Marxism which has been enjoying a revival in the U.S. ever since the 1960s. Dr. Jordan Peterson speaks extensively about neo-Marxists in his lectures, and with Dr. Camille Paglia in this video shows the root motives of neo-Marxists like Mr. Kimmel and his attacks on straight white men. Wow, this guy knows about Peterson and Camille Paglia. That's cool. Anybody? Well, I thought somebody was going to say something. Anyone want to say something about that? No?
No, but that is cool.
Yeah, I know. The more I read about this guy, the more I want to try to reach out to him.
He's part of the Pearson cult.
He's part of the lobster cult, yes. The answer to that question is that Mr. Kimmel feels inferior to anyone who is able to function in an objective reality. Mr. Kimmel's inner angry boy is furious that he can't be like the adult men that he sees around him.
Mr. Kimmel's inner angry boy.
Yes.
I just like how he keeps calling him Mr. Kimmel and he doesn't use doctor or professor or whatever Michael Kimmel is.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like Ms. Christy Splinter.
Those are nice jabs. I didn't think about that. His every waking... I'm sorry? Go
Does
ahead.
Kimmel have a doctorate, or is he just professor?
I think he does. Let me see if I can. Michael Kimmel. Yeah, he's a doctor. He has he is a doctor.
And that is a massive jab. So one of the things I did when I was teaching was I had my students call me Mrs. Wallen because they kept they call me professor, and I'd say I don't have a doctorate, I don't have any accolades. I'm here because I have experience in business. Just call me Mrs.
Do you have to have a doctorate to be called professor?
No,
okay.
But you do have to have a degree to be taken seriously as a professor by the accrediting system.
Yeah, sure.
And so,
and I think in order to be a professor, you have to publish in a scientific journal, right?
No, to get a doctorate. To get a
at least those are the rules in the UK. In the UK
to
university.
get a doctorate, you have to publish a dissertation.
Yeah, to get a doctorate. But I think you can be a professor if you have a master's.
Yeah, you can have a
is that all it takes?
Full professorship.
Is that all it takes? 10,000 words and you're a doctor.
Yeah, full professorship.
Awesome. I don't feel so bad about calling myself doctor now.
Yeah.
Versus an adjunct professorship. Now, to get a doctorate, you get your bachelor's, and then you get your master's, and then you go through like another couple of years of taking classes and writing your thesis. And you're writing your thesis while you're taking these classes. And there's a lot of politics that goes into getting approved. But no, I haven't done any of those things. You know, I mean, you know, if you want to get really technical about it, I flunked out of college twice, which is actually because I quit twice.
Well, back in my
I intercalated. Does anyone know what intercalation is?
No, actually, that's outside my vocabulary.
You got a new verb in your life. It's when you take a year off, just a year. Between my second and third years, I got a few months into my third year, and then I said, "Hey, can I take a year off and then come back?"
I dropped out of my master's degree, and look where I am now.
Yeah, I came back after a year and completed my drama degree with a whole new set of fucking drama students that I had to learn all over again. I can't fucking believe I passed, you guys. I fucking passed. I know it's only a drama degree, but
I don't think I could get through that.
So many drugs as well. It's amazing.
Well, I just wanted to mention that in UK universities, you can become a doctor after completing a thesis, but the professorship is usually you have to be there for a certain number of years in a university, and you have to publish into a scientific journal and be peer reviewed.
Yeah, do they have adjuncts?
I'm not sure what it is.
An adjunct is a person who is filling the position of professor but does not have a full professorship. You're essentially a teacher at a university, right?
Could be.
And that's when I was teaching. That's what I was an adjunct professor. And
usually adjunct professors aren't on tenure track. I mean, because I think in the U.S. it's, or at least the university I was at, you become an associate professor to start down that track. But adjuncts are more like people who they don't teach as many classes.
And their qualifications are different. Like my qualification was I was teaching photography, and my qualification was I had 25 years in the business of professional photography. And so that was that indicated to the university that I was competent to teach what that was about, because I had experience in the field enough that there wasn't anything the students were going to confront me with that I didn't know. And what I was teaching was photography and it was an IT business class for students who, when they graduated, you might want to run the newsletter for your company, or you might want to create the company's sales publication, or if the company has to create documentation of what it does. Like you work for an oil company, and it's your job to show the shareholders what the company is doing with this oil field they just purchased, or this pipeline they're creating, or whatever. You want to be able to document it with photography and so on. And that's the kind of thing I was teaching, how to take the kind of pictures you would take under that situation, how to create a photo story, how to add it to a publication, how to use the software of the day, and so on to achieve all of that. And you really don't need a degree for that. You really need field experience for that. But they replaced me with someone who had a bachelor's degree just in business, who had taken my course, because the accrediting system prefers a degree over actual knowledge of the subject, and it doesn't matter what degree you have. So as long as it is a degree.
Rip.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the rest of this article. Mr. Kimmel's inner angry boy is furious that he can't be like the adult men that he sees around him. His every waking moment of consciousness is to attack, ridicule, and tear down those men who are able to achieve. That is the essence of neo-Marxism. Its principal objective is to destroy civilization by shifting all power to a totalitarian government, which Mr. Kimmel and his misandrist supporters will control through corruption. That has been the objective of gender feminism for the last 50 years, probably longer, and it is succeeding in destroying the very fabric of our civilization. That's the end of his thing. He has a meme there that says, I don't need men as long as I have alimony, child support, child care, support groups, and government programs. That's too spicy. Too spicy, doctor.
Oh boy, I'm glad to see that coming from somebody with a doctorate.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I don't know. So I found John Davis's Facebook page. Apparently someone had actually invited me to like it, so I will send.
Actually do that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna send him a thing. I'm also, while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and like Shrink for Men, because I didn't know they had a Facebook page as well.
Oh, Shrink for Men has a Facebook page. That's great.
So
ask John Davis how he feels about having a boring name. I'd be interested in it. I have a boring name as well. That's why I'm called Dr. Random, because Michael Stevenson is among the most boring names you can possibly imagine. It's just first name, son. In fact, that guy from Vsauce, that really popular channel.
Yeah, Mike here. Yeah.
His name is Mike. His name is Mike Stevens.
Oh wow.
And my name and I apparently look a little bit like him. And my name is Mike Stevens' son.
That's funny.
That's funny. You know what else is funny? Today I was walking the dog. I wanted to go pick up some jewelry. We were getting repaired at the jewelry repair place. And I was walking.
What a strange place
as
to
one
get
would
that
do.
done.
I know, it's crazy. Well, I mean, I didn't even know it existed because I've really never owned jewelry, but the wife. So anyway, we're walking there with the dog, and there's this tall, skinny, black guy who, I swear to God, he was wearing a Ushanka and was dressed the way Mike normally dresses, except that he was black. And that was the only difference.
You're saying I don't dress black? That's racist.
Well, you're saying you don't use enough blackface.
I dress urban as fuck, bro. And those terms are interchangeable, right? Black means urban.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I was trying to come up with a like.
Do you know, in London, that's true at the moment. Apparently it's been the case in the States for quite some time that urban and black have been interchangeable. In fact, urban has been the politically correct term for sounding black. You know, when a black guy sounds white instead of sounding black, you're not allowed to say that. He doesn't sound urban. Whereas that's not really a thing in Britain because we don't have the slavery history, so there's not a black population in most major cities.
You have the slavery history, you just don't get shamed for it.
Well, it's not the
You didn't
slavery
bring
history
any-
specifically that caused that problem. It's the bank discrimination history. There was a long time during the 20th century where if you were black, no matter how much money you made, you could not get a loan for a house. You could get a loan for a car. You know, you could get loans for other stuff, but not a homeowner's loan. So you didn't find people buying homes in areas where they were expensive, you know, that were black unless they could pay for them up front, unless they made enough money to buy it right out of the chute, because they couldn't get a mortgage. They could get all kinds of other things, but they couldn't get a mortgage. So you saw more settling in urban areas where the housing was cheaper in the lower income neighborhoods. And then at the other end of it, when you saw a lot of black families get stuck in the welfare system, a lot of single black moms that had kicked the father out of the house and everything, Section 8 housing is more rare in small towns and suburbs. You don't see that. You see that in the urban areas,
in larger urban areas where there's more taxpayers.
You see that in London a lot. That was what I was saying. There's very much a sort of blackified culture. I can't find the politically correct verb for it. People who talk like that, it's sort of a cross between Cockney and like West Indian sort of Creole or whatever that thing is. Do you know what I mean?
Jamaican.
We get a lot of y'all generally think of your blacks as Southern, don't you? They'll talk
the way they talk
all that shit.
Because that's where that comes from. Like what they call, the black activists call it Ebonics, which is basically the way that black people talk. It's just like the Southern vernacular that's sort of like moved on, up. And it's also been reinforced from within the black culture itself. That's why there's such a thing as talking white. That's actually enforced by blacks within the black community on other blacks. That maybe they don't want to talk that way, but if they don't, they're considered traitors, and so you're talking white. But it's comes from the South.
There's been a black sort of subculture in the States for some time, but it hasn't existed in Britain. But the blacks are generally taken from Europe or from West Indies or shit. So, they are Africans are not the same as American Negroes as they're called. I don't like this Negro.
No, they're more like Africans, right?
Yeah, they're completely culturally different. So the same
or
thing
they're
hasn't happened.
are they also from the Caribbean as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
like
a lot
Jamaicans.
Of them, that's what I mean. That's what I mean by West Indies.
Yes,
calling them West Indies.
Okay.
But yeah, and what's happening in London now seems to be they've looked at what's happening in New York and look at all the major cities and gone, yeah, we like the look of that. We want a black subculture here as well. So and now the idea of urban in Britain does kind of mean, that sort of London sort of trick, urban and shit. Forgetting that urban is a concept that was invented in Britain in the Industrial Revolution. Like London was the first ever industrial city. The first ever mega city.
Yeah.
That ran not on agriculture but on industry.
And wasn't the purpose
was Manchester and all that shit. Like urban in the north of England. There's probably some people left where you would say to people in the north of England, urban means black, and they'd be like, "You fucking what, man?"
Yeah.
We've been running what William Blake called these dark satanic mills since late fucking 19th century. And you're telling me some other fucker is urban? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the I thought wasn't the what we call the urban sort of sprawls in Britain. They were built so that the people that worked during the Industrial Revolution in the factories and whatnot were close to their jobs. So you'd have these like enormous buildings with lots of apartments so that people could live there and they can get to their jobs easier. So they would all be in the same place. And that's actually like, the early apartment complexes or ghettos. If I remember correctly, anyway. But, okay, so we've read the articles. I don't know if how long have we been going? I feel like that this was
like an hour or so.
Yeah, like an hour. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the after show. But
when I was in charge, the after shows were over in like half an hour.
I know. Well, I don't want to go. I don't want to go too short because this is like for you guys. But I try to be reasonable because I know it's late where Mike is at and I gotta eat. So. But yeah,
my concept of time is not relevant.
No, it means nothing. It's just where the moon and the sun happen to be at the time.
Dogs on dark time.
Time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so.
More Douglas Adams.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the after show. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. Those of you guys who are watching in the chat. Yeah, there were a couple people watching us. So we're going to go ahead and go. But thanks again for coming. And I don't know. We'll see you guys very soon.